Greetings, everyone. So let's say we want to fit a parabola to a curve, or in other words, if we see a parabola and we have some information on it, we want to be able to write the equation of the parabola. How would we do that? Well, let's take a look at an example of a parabola. So here's an example of a parabola formed when water is coming out of a spout or a fountain, and you can see it's got a fairly nice parabolic curve, and we want to be able to find the equation for that. Now we need some data. We need to know some measurements about the parabola, and I'm not going to make you guys measure anything. I'm going to give you some data. I'm going to look at the next screen. So here's the problem. The fountain sprays a parabolic water stream. The height of the stream reaches 6 feet, and the stream is 4 feet wide. Find an equation of the parabola. Now, if you have your notes, or if you kind of remember how we did this in class, now would be a good time to go ahead and pause the video and see if you can come up with the answer to the question on your own, and then watch the rest of the video to see if your answer matches mine. It'd be really good practice for you. Now, we may put our axes in different spots, so we may get some slightly different equations, but we'd have the same A value, the same stretch factor, and that would allow you to test yourself to see how well you understand this before watching the rest of the video. So I suggest that, but of course I can't force you to do that. So let's get another picture of this up. Now I've already put in some axes here for this picture, and so you can see I'm starting I have the origin rather at where the water starts out of the fountainhead. And so I got the x-axis going through that part, and I got the y-axis going through that part. Now we can go ahead and add some data from what we just talked about to the picture. So we were told that the height of the water reaches 6 feet. So that means our vertex up here is going to have a y-coordinate of 6. So, and we'll fill in the x-coordinate in just a moment. Now we were also told that the stream is 4 feet wide, and so we know that the point way over here, since I'm starting the fountain at 0, this is going to have to be 4. Well, if that's 4, then we know the symmetry of the parabola. We know that the h value of the vertex is going to be half that distance, and so that's going to be 2. So now we know the parabola has the vertex at 2, 6. Remember, the equation of the parabola in graphing form looks like this. Y is equal to a times the quantity x minus h, quantity squared, plus k. And now, since we know the vertex is at 2, 6, we know h and k. H is 2 and k is 6. So we can write, excuse me, y equals a times the quantity x minus 2, quantity squared, plus 6. And again, we're most of the way there at this point. What we need to do now is find A. And to find A, we need to identify a point on the graph other than the vertex. Do not choose the vertex to find A. You'll find out that A disappears. So we need any other point works, but we only know 2 other points on the graph besides the vertex. We know it hits the origin, so we know we can use the point 0, 0. And then, as we already said, that it hits the point where x equals 4 on the x-axis. So in other words, it hits the point 4, 0. And so we can use either of those 2 points to determine the value of A. Now in class, a lot of students would rather have used the second point, not the origin point, so we'll use that one. So if the point is 4, 0, I'm going to plug in 0 for y, and that's going to be equal to A times 4 minus 2, quantity squared, plus 6. And then we just got to do some arithmetic, basic algebra, also to find A. So 0 is equal to A times 2 squared plus 6, or of course 0 is equal to 4A plus 6. And so continuing to solve, let me just recopy that down. We need to move the 6 over, so we'll subtract 6 from both sides to get negative 6 is equal to 4 times A. To undo that multiplication, we will divide by 4. These, of course, cancel. And that leaves A is negative 6/4. If you're the type that likes to reduce, you can. and write it as negative 3 over 2. If you're the type that likes decimals, you can do that too. That's negative 1.5. All those are the same value, so you could use any of the three in order to write the final equation. I'm going to stick to the fraction version. So, negative 3 over 2, I'm going to stick to the reduced fraction version, and then times the quantity x minus 2 squared plus 6. Now, one thing you can do to check to see if you did this right is you can take one of those points and see if it gives you a true statement when you plug in to this equation. So, if you plug in the vertex 2, 6, we should get a true statement. So if I plug in 6 for y and 2 for x, then the left side and the right side should be equal to each other. And if they aren't, then I know I made a mistake somewhere. And if they are, then I probably did it right. So I'm just going to simplify this a little bit. In here, inside the parentheses, we have 2 minus 2, which is 0, and 0 squared is still 0, so negative 3 over 2 times 0 plus 6. But we know that the negative 3 over 2 times 0 just becomes 0, and 6 is equal to 6, and so I know at least the vertex is on the equation that I found up here. So at least I'm on track to being right. And again, we can check any other point as well. At this point, you don't have to keep watching the video, but just to illustrate what I mean, let's try the origin point. According to our picture, the graph goes through the origin. So if I plug in 0 for y and 0 for x, I should get a true statement. And if I don't, I know there's a mistake somewhere, and if I do, then I'm probably okay. So this becomes negative 2 squared times that negative 3 over 2 plus 6. So 0 is equal to negative 3 over 2 times 4 plus 6. And I'm running out of space on this screen. The part in the first part of this expression right here, if you do the arithmetic here and you work this out either by hand, mentally, by a calculator, however, you end up getting negative 6. Okay? So I'm not going to go into the details of that, but that negative 6 plus the positive 6 over here, those combine to make 0. So I do get 0 is equal to 0, which of course is a true statement. So I'm looking pretty good here. I've tried a couple points to make sure that I don't have any mistakes in any particular spaces. So that's how you do this process, and I hope you practice and study so you're prepared to do it on any quizzes or tests that we're going to take. Go study.